takes us now to number 8, item 8, which is the Three Waters Infrastructure Environment Committee report on the Three Waters. And Adam Twice, welcome to the table. I thought this is a very, very good report. Obviously, we must thank Helen for it as well in her absence.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, if you'd like to give us a quick introduction and anything that may have been updated since this has gone live would be helpful. Just chuck it in.
Yeah, certainly. I've invited Bridget O'Brien as well. She's up to speed with the lead situation, just to provide a situation where we are up to with the Christchurch. So
Excellent.
Would you like to jump into that straight away, just so you can provide an update on that before I dive into the TWE report?
Sure, okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Being a hot topic at the moment, it's probably quite good to get a picture of our position with the lead in the pipes.
So a memo was provided on the lead situation in Christchurch and Akaroa and Littleton back in November. It's staff's intention to release a new version of that memo, an updated version, by the end of this week. However, given the topic, I just wondered if you have any questions here, and we can provide a quick informal update on that memo now.
Yep.
So that's it. Well done. Sorry, apologies. We're just working on this morning. So in terms of the previous memo, this one. The memo indicated we were going to start undertaking some additional lead sampling in December, January and February of December 2020, and obviously the start of this year. Unfortunately, that sampling has not started due to issues and staff resources. So we have recently experienced issues with Alma's annexed to Reservoir and also transgression events at Denton, which I will touch on in the TWE report. This also coincides with a lack of available resources in the laboratory. However, speaking to the team this morning, we have allocated a dedicated staff member who is working on that this week with sampling to go to start on Monday the 15th of February. The type of sampling we're going to be doing is 24-hour composite samples, which give us a much better information than the typical grab samples that have been done to date. Just to provide a little bit of background on that, the drinking water standards does not require us to sample for lead and the reticulation. It only requires us to sample in the raw water every 5 years. And all the way through this process, we have been communicating frequently with the drinking water assessor as well.
Any questions? Sam?
Just one quick one. So in terms of the lack of resource or the ability not to do it yet, has that been brought forward because of the Dunedin situation? And I guess if it has, what would be the mechanism where we'd have some oversight over that work not being completed? It might be a question for Carol potentially, but
unfortunately, it's just the time of the year in terms of the laboratory. They're working hard. The amount of extra drinking water samples we've been doing for the new water safety plans that have been submitted, so a lot of extra work has gone into that. But particularly with the recent transgressions on those two reservoirs and suction tank is what's taken our attention away a bit.
Yeah, but we had planned on doing the sampling from 2019 and we just haven't had the staff to do it. It's just been, we're just too busy doing other stuff. It just kept falling to the bottom of the list, but obviously with Dunedin, it's brought it back up into sharp focus again.
yeah. So what's the way in which that's fed back to us? I guess, is it through this report on a regular basis saying we haven't yet completed it?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
And as Adam said, we're going to be sending you an updated, fully informed memo to you by the end of the week.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
So there's a lot of information on the website, and I did send that link around, and you're going to update it on the website. But it says here there's less than 3% of our network has lead in it. And if you look, there's a map too, and they're very intensely located, obviously, in the older part of Christchurch in the city, which is probably could be a good thing in a way if you're going to replace them all.
Yeah, so it's 3% overall, but it's 19% in Littleton. So Littleton's the worst case.
Yeah. So most of it in Littleton.
Yeah, so it's basically, you think about where the parts of town that have got the really old houses in.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, so there's bits of it in the city as well, in the older suburbs, but primarily Littleton's the.
And so would that be the priority areas for testing then for this one staff member that's going to launch off on Monday?
Yes, I should think so. Yeah.
Also, how long will that take? That whole testing?
I think it was a 3-month program was identified in the memo.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sarah?
Thank you. I mean, you mentioned that the work hasn't happened because of resourcing, and I know we've had like staffing freezes and a whole range of other bits and pieces. If there was more resourcing put in place by councillors, would that work be able to happen more quickly?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
James?
So, sorry, just on that, we have got 2 extra resources in the laboratory, but just to try and maintain the number of samples that we've got at this moment in time, but this is still regarded as as extra above to that.
Picture, please. We just have
The map.
blow it up. Yeah. Can you blow that up? Focusing on New Brighton Bridge. Funnily, yeah. Look, I've got a. Is it my time?
Yes, yes.
I've got a question, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate for now, but that's interesting about the lead pipes and where they are. And I just noticed that the coastal and primarily Burwood wards don't have many, possibly because they were all cleaned up after the earthquakes, I assume. But there's one that goes, when I saw it, and we're trying to find it on the map now, there's one that goes across, I think it's New Brighton Road or the Bower Bridge or the New Brighton Bridge. And that looks like it's the only one over that side of town. Wouldn't it be good to get that fixed so that there's no risk of lead-infused water going through there?
So to answer your question about why there aren't any over in the east, it's because these pipes are pre-1930s. So they're cast iron pipes and they were joined with lead joints. I imagine that area developed after the 1930s, which is why you haven't got those older ones. We just have to prioritise. So what we're doing is measuring the concentrations and then prioritising the pipes. But the ones of most concern are the ones where we've got dead ends. So where the water's going to stagnate in the pipe and the lead will sort of leach out. Whereas I would expect the one going over the Bower, if that's the Bower Road Bridge, would be reasonably well flushed. But we just need to make sure that we're getting around and sampling them all.
Yeah.
And
I get that as a response.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There are priorities, but it just sort of sticks out like a red thumb. That's all. Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So to date, we haven't exceeded the maximum allowable value.
Yes, we have. Yes. Yeah.
But
So we've
the
exceeded.
medical officer of health still said it's safe.
I can't recall whether we've discussed it specifically with the medical officer of health. It was certainly discussst with the drinking water assessor at the time. So we have exceeded the maximum acceptable value in both Littleton and in Akaroa. But it's highly variable. So we've taken samples at the same location multiple times, and occasionally it'll be above the maximum acceptable value, and then other times it'll be orders of magnitude lower than that.
Right. No, it
So-
does say on the website, the medical officer of health has advised that the public health risk is extremely low and close to nil.
Oh, okay. We must have checked with them at the time. So that
And
would have
that's
been in
good.
2019.
Yeah, and we will keep a close relationship with him
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And so
But-
is it.
And
yeah.
but the advice, so we've got a new drinking water assessor now, and their advice is that they're now considering whether this should be made a priority 2 determinant for the Christchurch water supply, which would mean that we have to do more testing, which is what we're doing anyway, and
Yes.
and also take remedial action. So they're saying that any exceedance of the maximum acceptable value is unacceptable.
Yep. And so have we got a timeline of when, I guess it's a bit difficult when we don't know which areas need to be replaced yet, but can we get a timeline for this work?
Yes, absolutely, and we've already worked out the plan for the ones where we have exceeded the maximum acceptable value.
Yeah.
So we can come back to you with those ones.
So the other question I have is that, of course, we're all waiting for our water safety plans to be signed off. Lead is part of the water safety plan, even though it's not related to chlorine.
Yep.
It would stop a water safety plan being signed off.
No, they can approve a water safety plan if there are still unacceptable risks, providing the drinking water assessor is satisfied that the measures you're taking to address those are sufficient.
Yep. Great. That's good. Thank you. Yeah, Melanie. And then Yanni.
There's a few questions on the unacceptable risks, basically the ones that are in progress. So like the external reservoir and suction tank inspections carried out over summer, are they,
Oh, hang on. We're just
are we still back?
Melanie, we're just dealing with the lead at the moment. You've got a question on the
Okay.
report.
all right.
So I'll just see if there's any other questions on lead, and then I'll come back to you straight away. Is it on lead, Yanni?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to check what the process is for prioritising the expenditure on the replacement.
So it'll be based on, like if we have any pipes that have an exceedance of the maximum acceptable value, obviously are top of the list. And then if we get an exceedance of half that maximum acceptable value, then that'd be next. And then after that, it's just getting through and replacing all of them. So we've brought forward the replacement of all lead jointed pipes in the long-term plan.
So is there kind of a program that we can look at and see where things are sitting and what the budget is?
I spoke to, sorry, what's the name of the?
Craig?
I spoke to Craig this morning. He's going to put that in the memo for us on this week.
Okay, I think that'd be really useful for us. Just, that would be good. The other thing is, I know on our website, we say we're not sure whether chlorine has accelerated the impact of the lead joints failing. Are we doing any testing in that regard? Like, what are we doing to understand the impact of the chlorine on the lead?
Yeah, so because we'd never measured it before chlorine, it's hard to tell whether chlorine's having an effect or not. And we did do quite a lot of analysis comparing the lead concentration that we measure with lots of other things. So does it change with pH or time of day or retention time or chlorine concentration? And we couldn't find any relationship at all. I was talking to my colleague in Dunedin yesterday, and it sounds like they're having the same thing, that there doesn't seem to be any relationship between the lead and any other parameter. So I don't think it's exacerbated by the chlorine necessarily.
Okay.
Going to be replaced anyway, so. Any other questions on lead? Right, I'll throw to Melanie on the... Oh, no, hang on. Did you want to introduce the rest of the report, and then we'll go to questions?
Sorry, thank you.
Thanks very much, Bridget. Oh, and will this be a standing item on the border report then coming to this committee? If you can give us an update on where it's all at. Yep. Thank you.
We'll do that.
This is an update of time.
Oh, great. Right, fire away, Adam.
Okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the report and pull out the key highlights through each section. Anticipate it will take about 10 minutes. I'll go through it. Some things where there's a lot of detail I'll just cover over, but I'll pause. If you want to ask any questions at that point, feel free to do so. Starting over on the first page, then planning and policy. So central government reform, as we're aware, it's continuing on. The timeline for the programme is ambitious, and what's being passed around at the moment is page 6 of this report, which is the latest version, which is obviously come out since this report was done. So the timeline for this programme is ambitious. Government is looking to engage in options in February and March of this year, with policy decisions in April and May. Public information and education campaign will be driven by central government throughout this year. Legislation to create new entities is likely to be introduced in late 2021 and enacted in mid-22, with the entity's establishment and transition across that in 2022-2023. Moving down the page, the Department of Internal Affairs stimulus funding. So Council has received the first 50% of the grant of $20,260,000, with the remainder of those funds being paid through as progress payments. Like I say, I'm aware that you're getting other updates, hence this is just a summary. The Canterbury Service Delivery Review, that has been started in December 2020 and will be completed in May 2021, with a final report being delivered on that. The big thing for our staff at the moment is the Department of Internal Affairs request for information. This request for information was released to Council on October 2020, with a deadline for completion on the 1st of February 2021, and it has been delivered. And the list of information is there, but suffice to say that is a substantial amount of information which has had to be provided to make sure we provide accurate information through to central government for their decision process. The Department of Internal Affairs have helped out with that, and they have provided $60,000 of stimulus funding to support the delivery of that request for information, with which Council used that to hire 2 engineering graduates on a short-term basis for that data collection and quality assurance. Over the page is the printout of which has been provided.
So sorry, Adam, that quality assurance was expected to be completed by 15th of January. Has that been completed? That is?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, yes, it has. Over the page to page 7, the water services bill. Again, you've had other briefings on this. The Tomato White Water Services Regulator Bill is a second piece of legislation as part of Government's Three Waters Reform Bill. The first reading of that bill was on the 8th of December, with public submissions with a closing date of Tuesday, the 2nd of March 2021. Moving internally, Three Waters bylaw review. So the review of the 2014 bylaw has been brought forward from the planned 2024, primarily due to the obligations that the recently granted comprehensive stormwater network discharge consent. So it's been brought forward to be in line with that. Over the page, so the time frame of that review, the review report and the proposed draft bylaws will be presented to Three Waters Infrastructure Committee for consideration in April 2021. So staff will be working on that in the background between now and then. Over the page, onto compliance and quality assurance. Apologies, I did ask my staff member to be here to help with this, but unfortunately she's on training. Starting off with a comprehensive stormwater network discharge consent. The required sediment discharge management plan has been developed and has been submitted to Canterbury on the 17th of December, so that's now with them. Third paragraph down. Planning is underway for the launch and signing of the Communities Waterway Partnership Charter on the 22nd of March 2021 at Tauranga. The partnership will look to establish a community water engagement programme involving Council, Canterbury Regional Council, Naitahu, Department of Conservation, Ministry for the Environment, Canterbury District Health Board, universities, school, industrial representatives, water care and community groups, with the objective to encourage awareness and community actions to reduce stormwater contamination discharges and to improve waterways through source control and behaviour change. So I'm quite happy with that because it shows that we're trying to reach out to community and get engagement. I don't think council can fix stormwater ourselves entirely. Moving on to the next section in terms of customer service requests and the level of service. Open service requests. Staff have been working hard to try and close out a number of the historical service requests, particularly the ones that are sitting in the over 1 year category. And Three Waters staff have worked with the continuous improvement team to try and sort out the issues in those systems. The focus going forward will continue to be on those open tickets with a concerned effort over the next coming months to try and get that down. And that's both across the Three Waters assets and also the wheelie bin tickets, and there's a table of data in there. Over the page onto page 10, request resolution. Obviously it's quite topical over the summer with the water restrictions being in place. Leaks from the water supply network are once again the lowest performing measure. A targeted effort to resolve leaks has resulted in an improvement in closing out the jobs over the last month, with 685 more tickets being closed compared to the previous baseline amount of work. Health and safety and wellbeing. 91,483 hours were worked in November. December results will come later. During those 92,000 hours, 34 events were reported, which involved 28 near misses and 6 first aid injuries. Information on that is available on the back page. Over the page for resource consents, that's page 11. Littleton wastewater treatment plant has been brought back into compliance. Just in time for the deadline imposed by Environmental Canterbury on the 16th of December 2020. The threat of enforcement action on that has been lifted. However, we cannot afford to take our eye off the ball on that until the wastewater treatment plant is decommissioned and the wastewater pump station on site has been commissioned. Again, information on that's further in the report. There was 3 significant non-compliances. The most significant one occurred on the 28th of October when there was a reported discharge of black water into a creek off the Takapuneke Reserve. This was a consequence of the leachate capture pipeline from the Anuku landfill So the pipeline had split, spilling into the creek. The pipeline was repaired on the 28th of October, and the majority of the line, 250 metres, was replaced by the 11th of December, with the final clear up on the 14th of December. All that information has been provided to Environmental Canterbury. Water safety plans. Looking at that table there, the Wainui Water Safety Plan has been submitted on the 12th of November. The Akaroa Water Safety Plan was submitted on the 18th of September and has been returned approved, and staff are working to ensure that all the we comply with that.
Do we know how long before we hear about the Christchurch Littleton one? Say around 3 months, possibly?
Sorry, the Christchurch Little one submitted on 23rd of December. We've had no feedback on it. However, what I am aware of is the drinking water assessor has given us some feedback on Wainui and said that they are presently very busy with obviously what's happening down at Dunedin, so they have expressed to us a delay in that.
Okay.
So, yeah, they indicated they're running about 2 weeks behind. So I've just touched on the next couple of pages from that. So bottom of page 12, unacceptable risks from the Christchurch Littleton Water Safety Plan. So there's 4 risks which are still being deemed as unacceptable, with ongoing chlorine treatment being used to mitigate 2 of those risks. Just to make it clear that none of those unacceptable risks are associated with the groundwater source, so there's nothing wrong with the water that's coming out of the ground. Rather, these risks are associated with water storage tanks and water distribution systems. So I'll touch on the 4 points below. So that's with major microbial contamination storage tanks, reservoir suction tanks serving more than 5,000 people due to cracks in the roof or below groundwater, below ground surface. Number 2, the introduction of contamination material in the distribution system due to leaching of lead in lead joint pipes. Number 3, introduction of contamination due to no, inadequate, faulty or incorrect backflow prevention devices. And number 4, civil emergencies. So the next few pages provide some more details on that. And I'll move on to page 17 for the financial overview. The operational results for November 2020. For Three Waters, we have a favourable variance of 4.75 million to date, with the forecast for the end of the year for the units to be 300,000 favourable. Moving into solid waste, recyclable material collection and processing costs are $1.6 million lower due to lower recycled material processing fees as a result of contamination diverting that material to landfill. However, residual waste collection and disposal costs are equally $1.6 million higher due to disposing recycled material directly to landfill. Operation of closed landfills is $1 million higher due to planned unreceipts of material going into the Burwood resource recovery. Stormwater drainage costs are $1.2 million favourable for the year due to lower maintenance cost. Flood protection and control are also $1.3 million lower due to lower planned maintenance costs and costs associated with the Heathcote dredging project. And the table below provides a breakdown of those figures. Moving over the page to page 19, water supply. E. coli water quality monitoring. The number of E. coli samples taken still continues to exceed the requirements of the drinking water samples, so we're still exceeding more than we're supposed to, and there's charts there that provide that information.
It's a good thing we're taking more samples than we're required to.
I agree,
Yeah.
yes. On page 21, E. coli transgression. So 1 E. coli transgression occurred on the 25th of November and 1 E. coli transgression occurred on the 24th of December. Both of these transgressions occurred at Denton Pump Station, which is in the west zone. Investigations carried out at the pump station showed the source of the contamination was the suction tank due to defects in the roof. Denton Pump Station was disconnected from the network on the 26th of December for further investigation, options and remedial work. So that work is still obviously ongoing at the moment. Staff have been busy putting in a bypass system which connects the wells directly to the surface pumps, which will enable Denton to come back to 50% of service hopefully next week. As soon as that's done, the suction tank will be passed across to Capital Delivery for them to fix. Work will also then go on to Sockburn suction tank as well and bypass there to try and prop that up. To keep the zone pressure up. Capital Delivery, pump stations, wells and reticulation. You've got a breakdown there of the projects, a bit of information and the budget. Wasn't planning in the interest of time to go into any of those in detail.
Yep.
All the information's there. Moving on to page 26, water supply operations. So the majority of pump stations and wells continue to operate as expected, pumping an average of 1,803 litres a second, so 1.8 tonnes of water out the ground into the reticulation. Over the page onto 27, you've got the graph. The solid red line is this year, with the red dotted line being last year's, and as you can see we are tracking well above that for August, September and October. The slightly wetter weather in November and December has helped in dropping that. Temper chlorination equipment continues to perform well. The UV installation at main pumps is working, and we are in the process of putting in a dual instrument train, so we've got more resilience at that. Water supply reticulation, we had 16,269 requests for service logged. In the same reporting period, CityCare completed 7,740 connection repairs, 368 backflow prevention device installations and 1,559 new water connections, so very busy as ever. Over the page onto 28, council staff have been working very closely with CityCare, and that's included relaxation of timeframes around non-urgent jobs, which has allowed CityCare to more effectively allocate resources and improve workflow, and to allow better completion of urgent jobs, and this has had positive results. Over the page to page 29, Banks Peninsula. As I mentioned before, particularly dry weather early at the start of spring has dropped a large number of levels within the water supply that's out there, so much so that level 2 water restrictions were imposed in Banks Peninsula in December. Again, working very closely with CityCare to ensure that we're operating those plants well. Wastewater, Christchurch Wastewater Treatment Plant is operating with no significant issues. The oxidation pond midges, the graph there shows an overall reduction in the number of midges since we started sampling in 2018. The spike on the right is associated with that warmer, dry weather again. However, the other mitigation approaches of increased vegetation planting seems to have mitigated that. So we have noticed an increase in the number of midges, but it's not been reflected in the number of complaints yet. Over the page to page 30, wastewater planning. There's an update there on the Akara Reclaim Scheme. Next section is on wet weather overflow consent. So the long-time series modelling is underway to determine whether we continue to comply with our wastewater overflow consent. 15 years of rainfall data has been run through that model, and it's been recalibrated. So that will be completed in late January. And Environmental Canterbury has agreed to the delayed timeline. Has agreed to a delayed deadline for delivering our consent compliance reports in regard to that. Further down, again, capital delivery, projects, information on where it's up to and the budget. Moving across to page 33, stormwater and waterways operation. Third paragraph down, again, with it being very dry, there's been very few service requests from customers over the holiday period. However, I'd like to draw your attention to the last paragraph on that page. The Sumner Beach outfalls are an ongoing and potential increasing problem as the beach profile continues to change and rise. The Hardwick Street outfall in particular appears to have risen in the order of 300 millimetres in the last month. We have been able to maintain the function of these outfalls to date, but if the beach profile continued to rise, it is becoming increasingly difficult and more expensive to do so. Over the page to page 34, stormwater and waterway planning. The draft Opawa, apologies for my pronunciation, Opawaho, Heathcote River and the Huatini Holswell River Stormwater Management Plans were presented to the Three Waters Infrastructure Committee on the 16th of December. More information is there, and further down the capital delivery for the stormwater and waterways, again, details and budget numbers. And, yep, and that's all that I wanted to touch on, with the last table being the health and safety wellbeing statistics, which were referred to earlier in the report. So I hope that format has worked for you. Again, apologies for pronunciation.
No, don't apologise, just keep practising, that's what we're all trying to do. I'm going to do the closing at the end of this, and I always get a bit nervous about it, but look, I think that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, and I think you went through it really succinctly and clearly, and it was really, really good.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. So we've got questions now. Melanie, you had one?
There's some questions from those tables and the unacceptable risks on page 13 and
Sorry,
onward.
Mel, what page?
So it's page 39 on ours, I think, and 13 in the... So under unacceptable risk 1 in the table, I was just wondering, like it says that the external reservoir and suction tank inspections are carried out over summer and it's in progress. Is that, how far along is that?
Sorry, I don't have an update, but I'm aware that they are ongoing with City Care.
Okay. And then with the other one was about a couple of pages on unacceptable risk 3, the backflow. Do you know anything about where that's up to as well?
No, but I'll make sure that's included in update for future reports.
Yeah, in the media, sending letters out. Good. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Yanni.
Thank you. It's got a comprehensive report, so sorry, I skip around with the questions. But the first question I had was around the age testing. It said 4 out of the 5 units have been complete. Do we know when the 5th unit will be complete?
I don't, I'm afraid, sorry.
Okay. So I just think it'd be good to get an update on that age testing, because I know that
I think
there
it's in there. I think it's the end of this year, 2021. But yeah, let's get that for definite. I'm pretty sure that's right.
Just in regards to Denton, was that defect in the in that facility? Was that something that should have been picked up during routine maintenance, or was it an unusual event that happened that created that problem?
We have identified that we have got issues with unacceptable risk 1 into the storage tanks. So we are going round undertaking assessments, external and internal, of the reservoirs.
Yeah.
It was done, and there was some work done on the site. I think it's about 8 months before. The site did have extensive work done on it after the earthquakes under Skirt.
Right. So do we know what caused the defect?
The report's coming at the moment, so
Okay.
I'm sure that can be provided.
Yeah,
so it's with capital delivery at the moment.
I think it would just be helpful to understand.
Yep.
I just wanted to check in terms of the chlorine, the temporary chlorine.
Yep.
So at this stage, do we have any sense of when we can remove it?
That's dependent on the approval of the water safety plan.
So, and we're kind of expecting that the time frame for that to be
Soon, next month or 2.
Well, it was lodged in December, and previously they've taken about 3 months, but Adam just said it's delayed because of issues with Dunedin.
right.
So, and then they may come back with other non-compliance stuff, so we really don't know.
So the backflow for prevention, when's that scheduled to be complete?
I'll get an update on that for you.
Yeah, okay. No, that would be good. I mean, I think, it's good that we've got the tables, but the thing that's missing is kind of the timeline.
Yep.
And it's really hard to follow and kind of understand when things will be done. For the things that are in progress, obviously the things that have been done, we can see. I just wanted to ask on the projects going through Wolston, both the Wolston Village project and also Alport Place just seems to be constantly in a state of nothing happening. And are you able just to give us or get us some sense of?
So apologies, so I'm covering for Helen. So
that's
I'm
cool.
mainly operationals. However, John Moore's put his hand up. So I'll
Okay,
invite him
no,
up.
that's great. It's just like I just was kind of interested in what communication was going on, and obviously hoping that Wolston Village is on track, but also I guess more for that Allput place, which is tied up with the Littleton one.
I'm trusting that our project managers are doing the appropriate communication with the residents there. I'm expecting them to be away from Allport Place in the next 2 months after the construction of the bespoke valve pit, and then they will need to come back a month later to install the specialist valve that is coming from overseas, and that will probably take a couple of weeks to install, and after that we will commence commissioning of that whole scheme.
Yeah, and I guess just because that little cul-de-sac has been basically having like work done consistently for almost the last 10 years, it looks terrible. You know, it's just like a dumping ground, and I get it, we need to do the work, but I just hope that we've got a good plan when everything's complete to make it look nice again. So just, I guess, pass on that feedback to you, and just to ensure that there is good communication going on. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Yanni. Your answer to the age of the waters on around about page 40, it's late 2021 that work will be completed. Phil, got a question?
Yeah, thanks.
Is it a question?
Pardon?
It is a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I see in here, Ben Rare, you've got 4 tenders, and and it was due to be someone's going to be selected. Has that been done, and when will it start? It's just gone through the system, but I imagine it's looking at that, it's due to be announced, or whoever's doing it. You've got someone.
The tender execution isn't expected to happen until about mid-March. There was a delay with some of the design work and closing out some of the tender tags.
Okay, so that's cool. And the other one is, I hear you talk about City Care. Do they do a sort of a rates tender to us for the year, or do they just get it on, ring them up and do it, charge up?
Sorry, is this for reactive work within the reticulation?
Yeah.
Oh, there's an existing contract in place for that.
Sorry?
So there is a contract that's in place for that.
Okay, that's cool.
That's right.
That's cool.
Sorry, Caroline, do you want
Thank
to
you.
talk to this, where that contract's up to?
Yeah, so we're coming to finance and performance in March with recommendation of what we do with that contract going forward.
Great. And I've just got one question. Oh, Jimmy.
Regarding to the water supply plan, the Vainui and the Christchurch Littleton, we submitted to the drinking water assessor for review. I'm not sure, when they will feedback to us.
Drinking water assessor has fed back to us yesterday on the update on the submission of the Wainui water safety plan.
Yes.
Indicating they're going to be 2 weeks behind. So in about 2 weeks, we all could get their preliminary assessment back.
Okay, but how about Christchurch? Not yet. Okay.
It's typically about 3 months.
Yeah, and then I just want to know if these two approved by the drinking water assessors, whether it means all Christchurch and Littleton no more the coordinating water or not.
We do have further work to do under the water safety plan to before we can just take the chlorination out. Just because the water safety plan's approved and with us doesn't mean we can switch the chlorination off straight away. There is unacceptable risks still within the water safety plan,
Yes.
which requires further remedial work on that. The backflow prevention, the age testing, the reservoirs and suction tanks.
Okay, thank you.
So we've asked for a timeline for the backflow prevention
Correct,
work.
yes.
We know the ageing will be completed by the late 2021, and the reservoirs, have we got a timeline for those as well?
Sorry, John, do you have a time frame on the suction tanks and reservoirs? No, we'll get that to you.
Do you think it would be after the age testing, late 2021 or before?
Yes.
It's likely to be due to the unique way that Christchurch reticulation is. I cannot just keep switching all the suction tanks off, give them a cross capital delivery. For example, in West Zone, I've got 2 major suction tanks on 2 major stations. I'm only able to take one off at a time.
So that's why it's
Yeah, so
restricted.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got a question on page 56, I think, and it's about the wet weather overflow consenting work.
Yep.
So if we do not comply with our consent after we've done this modelling, a wastewater optimisation project will be undertaken to determine the most cost-effective suite of upgrades to reduce overflows and comply. So will we have budget for that, John? I mean, is this would be non-anticipated work, or did you have an inkling that we might? Or, I mean,
So we did some modelling, and we determined that we considered that there was a compliance issue in some areas, but what we did find was that the work that we had completed reduced the volumes of the overflows significantly.
right.
So we will now be able to focus on those specific areas to do upgrades, and I think we'll be able to find the money to do those projects. Once we get the model back, we will be in discussion with ECAN regarding the compliance, because I think in our view, although the number of sites is reduced, the volume is also reduced significantly.
Right, so you're confident we'll be able to manage it.
Sure.
Great answer, thank you. Phil, is it for John?
Oh, it might as well. You stay.
Stay.
I just want to get down into Denton Park tank a little bit more. I've through the office of the CE, I've understood that it was damaged in the earthquake and it got a lot of repair done on it, 350 odd grand's worth or whatever. This could not have happened at a worse time of the year, that you had to shut it down when it was the number of hot days that we had, and that's mainly because then we had to have the water restrictions on, so to speak, to just cover ourselves a bit. How much is it costing to bypass the tank at the moment, roughly? And because correct me if I'm wrong,
the costs are still ongoing at the moment. So we've done the mechanical work.
Yeah.
The electrical work is still ongoing at the moment. It should be hopefully finished next few days, and then we've got the associated laboratory samples with that. So we are keeping a track of the costs.
So but we've had to do this because the tank was damaged. But from what I understand from the office of the CE, the tank is structurally sound, but the roof has got, because it's made up like segments of
Correct.
a Tuesdale cheese block,
Yep.
and it's leaking between the cracks. It's only 110 grand to put a butanol roof over the top of it. So why are we doing all this extra work to bypass the tank when, or should we have given you more money last year to fix the roof so this problem wouldn't have happened?
We're looking to put a membrane roof on Denton, but the idea of being able to take the suction tank out of service is so that we can address all the other defects that are in that tank as well, which include the walls and some on the roof, some on the floor, I understand.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Yanni?
Just on the agenda, there's reference to the, what is it? Why, the one in New Brighton next to Knights Pond? Is the one that's in the red zone. Waitakere?
Waitakere stop bank?
Yeah, the Waitakere stop banks, thank you. And just wanted to check, it's now talking about being integrated with the regeneration plan, but like, I'm just wondering how the Pages Road Bridge and the other stuff on the other side all relates to each other, because it's a huge amount of money going in. I think when it came to council, it was raised, hopefully that's being done with the Pages Road Bridge so we get an integrated design, but I don't see reference to that in here, which is why I was raising it.
Do you know?
I think Andrew Rutledge is doing the coordination for the residential red zone projects.
Yes, yes.
Three Waters are proceeding with their projects and advising that coordination process, what our processes are, and so we're making sure that communication is occurring.
Yeah. Andrew made that quite clear at a presentation recently, that they're all working together.
So I guess what I'm concerned about is the designs. Sorry, I found the page, page 38. The design's going to be completed by January 2021, and yet we've had no understanding about Pages Road Bridge. We've got conversations going on about the cycleway. We haven't even chosen the route selection. So, you know, I just think we should really try and align these projects as much as possible, given the huge amount of money that's being spent in this little corner of the city, which must be close to, you know, 50 or 60 million.
I agree.
So,
and we're communicating with the control group that looks at that so that they're aware of what our program is. So I'm hoping they're taking account of that. I trust that they will be taking account of that.
okay, because it might be helpful if we approve the cycleway route, then they know whether it's going through there or not. And also I thought we had to discuss realignment of the Pages Road Bridge to shift it slightly. So
Yeah, well, can we just get a memo on that, just assuring us that it's the parks, the cycleways, bridge team all working together.
and there's the other project on the other side, which I'm still
The Waitaki
don't quite understand why we need to spend all that
the,
money, but
wetland.
yeah.
Yeah. But just a quick memo assuring us that this is all lined up.
Yeah, the western one, the western side.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this report? If not, I'll move it. Do I have a seconder for this report? James? Any debate? Any discussion? I just wanted to congratulate you again for the way you presented it. Adam, it was excellent. And thanks, John, for being here to answer those questions. And thanks for bringing Bridget in for the lead questions. That was really helpful. All right, I'll put the resolution to receive the information. All those in favour say aye. 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 Opposed? That's carried. Brings us to the end of our meeting. So I'll do the closing. Tukuna te warua ki riri ki te taumata. Ko te matatika, matapono, hi arahi ina mahi. Ka arotahi te tira kia iki punuku, kia iki tangaroa. Homi e, hui e, ai ki e. Kia ora everybody, thank you.
Kia ora.